Okay, what everyone can see here today is a 2001 Yamaha Blaster. This is a 200cc two-stroke bike. Now, it is technically a classic ATV only because they made these from 1986 to 2006, and the only changes they've made to these were in 2003, where they made hydraulic braking system. Now you can see this is before 2003, mainly because the front brake is not hydraulic. It has a standard cable, and the rear brake is actually not existent in this one. So this could take the upgrade. However, what normally happens with these is if they're hydraulic, there's bolts here and here that go in. Now when they hit the brake, the hydraulic piston hits, and then there's fluid from here to here. In this case, this does not have that. You can see it clearly. It's got a brake caliper, or not a caliper, I'm sorry, a brake cable holder up top here. That's also for the plastics. Actually, you know what? That might be for the plastics. But either way, oh, here's the cable, I'm sorry. It's got this little hole here. You can see the brake normally sits on the peg right here, comes down, is attached to a spring, and then also has this here that it goes into. Now it goes here, off to the back, which it's clearly missing right now. It's like a running gag with these sport ATVs. They're always missing the rear brake, and this one doesn't even have the caliper. Blaster, between 86 and 2002, always had these missing calipers because the mechanical parts always broke. They spun and then they would break over time, either be inside the springs rotted out or something happened to them. So always happens. So this is also my first ride with one of these. Swing arm's pretty solid up top. Down here the bearings are a little shot, but you know, it doesn't affect too much. Actually, they're pretty solid. This one's stock. You can see the pipe is normal. What's not stock that probably you've noticed, the reason why I say it doesn't quite look like a 2001 is because the frame is or yellow. And I had some trouble with this first. I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what's going on with this. The frame was actually silver to start. You can tell because when I actually had to find the VIN on this one. I wasn't going to take it without it. So I ground it down to find the VIN, picked up the VIN was clean. So in doing that, because the VIN was covered when I first looked at it, I scraped it off, got the VIN, ran the VIN, it was clean. Now, and I painted it back just really fast with a yellow paint because they decided they wanted to paint this frame yellow. But that's why I thought it wasn't a 2001 to start with. But the plastics, they went to these color plastics in 2000, I believe, or 2001. And these were the stock plastics with it. They put the stickers on before I got it. And yeah, I mean, that's that. The front light's gone. There usually is a square front light up top. Instead, they just put these two Walmart lights that aren't connected to anything. I looked inside of here, and there's nothing there. And actually, when I got it, all the plastics were off too. You can see right there. So that's the only ones I'm missing. I put all the nuts and bolts and everything back into it. The one thing that I have at my shop that I need to grab is the top to this air filter holder. Now, you'll hear it when I drive. It's bogging out because there's not enough pressure. The pressure is a big thing in two-strokes because they need intake pressure and external pressure. Unless it's jetted correctly, you need that pressure. So this doesn't have it, so it bogs a little weird, and you'll hear that. But here's all the nuts and bolts that I put on. Here's the new bolts everywhere. Actually, it costs a pretty penny to do that. The new ones everywhere on this. You can see them up top. You can see them over here. All new. So yeah, I mean, overall, it's an okay condition. I've never really had a very clean blaster. This is probably somewhere around my 30th, maybe 40th. I've lost count of blasters. They're everywhere. That's because they're so damn easy to work on. Now, this right here is the top end. It's not liquid cooled. You can see where the 200cc motorcycle was liquid cooled, and they use these engines. but this one is not. So the top cylinder has 6 bolts on it. You take those out, the studs are in there, it comes right out, top end comes out with 4 more bolts down here. That's it. If you ever need to replace it, it takes probably about a half hour. So a lot of people are worried when the top ends blow on these. It happens all the time. As long as you mix correctly and do the time to clean the cylinders and always make sure it's in good shape, you're not going to have any issues. Now this one has the upgrade done to it that I normally do, which right here, you can see it, there's no oil injection. That system was horrible in Yamaha. The oil injection came off the back over here. Right here, it sits on these 2 bolts here and here. I don't know if you can see that, here and here. Now, when it sat on those bolts and the wire or the tube came down from here, came through here, and ended up inside of the gearing that pumped the oil into the carburetor here. Now, this wasn't done completely right, but if it's got a block-off kit, I'm happy with it. That way you can mix the appropriate ratio of oil and gas together in the tank prior to it going into the carb and into there. If anything gets clogged in there, it can blow up. So again, I've had about 30 of these blasters. I don't know. I've had so many I lost count. But let's take it for a ride just to see how it does. It's slightly warm right now. I just brought it in the woods. You can see I didn't get very far, but I just brought it in the woods, and let's run it down the back. It's only got front brakes again, but the front brakes work, so I'll be happy to go down the hill. Hopefully I don't get stuck. I just checked the fluids, I checked the carburetor, I made sure everything was clean inside. I made sure that it had enough compression, which it was running at 130, which is okay, it's acceptable, and it's not in dire need. If it was like 110, 90, it would run at 90, 100, 110, but normally that's when it needs a rebuild. 130 is acceptable though. So let's start it up, see how it runs. There's no key again. It's just always seems to be a thing with these things. The blasters are really beaten on quads. So let's see how it runs though. So I've got the gas on. I've got everything kind of straightened out here. Again, it's not hot, but let's run it. Sound of 2-stroke. Alright, give it a ride down the hill. Let it warm up first. Thinking about going down the big hill. I thought twice with only front brakes and it being a blaster, these things weigh nothing. This one's a little bit bigger than the 230. It does not have the low end the 230 has, but it has a lot more power. It has the power band and a lot more spunk. So let's go. I'm going to go slow through here first. I don't know how yeah, it's got a lot of power. Big hill in it a little bit. Got a lot of little high-end power units. Wheelies real easily. This is not a mud quad, but we'll take it through the small mud. I don't have my boots on either, so I just got whipped with mud all over my back. These mini plastics don't do anything, but that's not what these are made for. They're made for this.